Section 2. This section covers state, provincial, territory laws. State, provincial, territory laws. Your basic speed. Kansas basic speed laws require that you never drive a vehicle at a speed greater than is reasonable and prudent under the conditions that are existing. Consider road, weather, and your vehicle condition, as well as your own physical condition. What might be a reasonable speed at one time may not be reasonable at another time because of differing conditions. Adjust your driving to road, traffic, and weather conditions. Speed limits where no special hazards exist. The law sets maximum speeds for normal driving conditions. Unless otherwise posted, those maximum speeds are, in towns and cities, 30 miles per hour in any urban district. That's a neighborhood. On roads and highways outside of town, 75 miles per hour on any separated multi-lane highway as designated and posted by the Secretary of Transportation. 65 miles per hour on any state or federal highway, and 55 miles per hour on any country or township road. Unless otherwise posted, the maximum speed limits are 20 miles per hour in school zones and business districts. School buses, the posted speed limit unless otherwise determined by school district policy. Minimum speed impeding the flow of traffic. Minimum speed limits may also be set on some roadways. Where they are posted, any speed below that is considered unlawful under normal weather and road and traffic conditions. Even when a minimum speed is not posted, it is unlawful to drive a vehicle so slowly as to impede or block the normal movement of traffic. The exception is when it is necessary for safe precautions in compliance with the basic speed law. Seatbelts. Kansas law requires that all occupants use safety restraints in passenger vehicles. Seatbelt use is now a primary violation in Kansas as well. If a law enforcement officer sees an unrestrained adult in a front seat or an unrestrained child anywhere in the vehicle, then that vehicle can be stopped solely for that violation. Child restraints. The driver of a passenger car is responsible for ensuring that all children in that vehicle are properly protected with the appropriate occupant restraints. A passenger car is any vehicle designed to carry fewer than 10 passengers. All children under the age of 4 must be restrained in a federally approved child safety seat. All children 4 to 8 years of age must be restrained in a federally approved child safety seat or booster seat unless the child is taller than 4'9" or weighs more than 80 pounds. Then they must use a seatbelt. Children 8 years and older must be protected by a seatbelt. Avoid placing a rear-facing infant seat in an airbag-equipped seat position. If you must place it there, then move that seat as far to the rear as possible. The safest position to place a safety seat is in the middle of the back seat. Read and follow the manufacturer's instructions for your car seat. Signaling for stops and turns. Before you slow down, turn, or change lanes, make sure that you can do so safely. Let other drivers, cyclists, and pedestrians know that you intend to do by giving the proper signal. All signals must be given at least 100 feet before making the actual turn or move. That is likely to be a question on your test. Signals should be held until you are ready to make the actual turn. If you are driving a vehicle required to have a turn signal, then you must signal your intentions to turn with your electric turn signals. Turns on multi-lane roads. In making a right turn from a 4-lane divided highway, enter the right lane well in advance of the turn and make a tight turn into the right lane of the cross street. So you're in the right lane and you're staying in the right lane when you turn as well. For left turns, move near the center line or traffic divider and turn from the inside lane in a way that you will not swing wide, and you will enter the cross street just to the right of the center line. Some intersections are marked to permit turns from more than one lane. You may make turns as indicated by signs or pavement markings. U-turns. Do not make a U-turn on a curve, near the top of a hill, or anywhere you cannot be seen by other drivers for at least 500 feet. That might also be on your test. Obey local ordinances and regulatory signs regarding such turns. Passing. On 2-lane roads with traffic moving in both directions, you may pass traffic on the left side if the pass can be completed safely and without exceeding the speed limit. In preparing to pass, check the road ahead for sufficient distance and the road behind for other traffic that may be preparing to pass you. Turn on your left turn signal before passing. Turn on your right signal after passing before returning to the right lane. Do not return to the right lane too soon. Wait until you can see the entire front of the vehicle that you have passed in your rearview mirror. When your car is being overtaken, then stay in your lane and do not increase your speed. Within 100 feet of a bridge, viaduct, or tunnel if your view is obstructed. Within 100 feet of crossing any intersection or railroad grade crossing. On a hill, curve, or any other place designated as no passing zone. Anytime the left side of the road is not clearly visible and free of oncoming traffic. Where signs prohibit passing. Where there is a solid yellow line on your side of the center line. Or within 100 feet of an emergency vehicle that is stopped on the side of the roadway and has its emergency lights on. The no passing zone is the only pennant-shaped warning sign. It marks the beginning of a no passing zone and is placed on the left side of the road facing the driver. A double solid yellow line prohibits traffic in both directions from crossing the center line. You must return to your driving lane before coming within 200 feet of any vehicle approaching from the opposite direction. Passing on the right. You may pass another vehicle on the right when driving on one-way streets and highways marked for 2 or more lanes of traffic moving in the same direction. Do not drive on the shoulder to pass except during an emergency or when directed by traffic authorities. When passing on the right, check traffic ahead and behind and use signals to show your intention. Following other vehicles. The law requires that you not follow a vehicle more closely than what is reasonably and prudent. Weather and road conditions and traffic will influence how far this distance is. You must be able to stop or turn in order to avoid a collision if the vehicle in front of you suddenly stops. Use the 2-second rule for measuring a safe following distance under prime conditions, and use 4 seconds when under adverse conditions. That's likely to be on your test. When you are following vehicles which stop often or make sudden turns, such as buses, delivery vans, police cars, you should increase your following distance, leaving more room between you and the car. When driving in bad weather, you should increase your following distance even more. Following too closely reduces the ability to see road and traffic conditions ahead. Without seeing what is ahead, it is more difficult to avoid trouble as it develops. Stopping. A complete stop is required. At a stop sign, you must stop at a clearly marked stop line. But if none, before entering the crosswalk on the near side of the intersection, or at some point nearest the intersection roadway. When coming from an alley, private drive, or building within a business or residential district. When a school crossing guard is displaying an official flag in a stop position. When directed by a flag person or any traffic control device at a railroad crossing. When directed by a flag person at a construction site, or any time when directed by a police officer. When an emergency vehicle is coming toward you, or approaches from behind and is displaying flashing red lights and or sounding a siren, immediately drive to the right and stop without blocking any intersection. At a traffic signal that is flashing red. These are all reasons you have to stop your car. School buses. You must stop when meeting or overtaking a school bus, church bus, or daycare bus that has stopped to pick up or let off children. You must remain stopped until the stop sign is brought back in and the red lights are turned off. Traffic approaching a school bus in the opposite roadway of a divided highway is not required to stop. And a divided highway means that there is concrete and like an island between the two roads. Right-of-way. Right-of-way rules are an aid to safe and smooth traffic flow. They emphasize courtesy and common sense. The driver of a vehicle approaching an intersection must yield the right-of-way to a vehicle that has already entered the intersection from a different highway. When two vehicles enter an intersection from different roadways at approximately the same time, the driver on the left shall yield to the driver on the right. So if you are to the left of someone, you have to wait for the other person to go first. When entering an intersection with no traffic controls, you must yield to the vehicle on your right. If you are entering a through street or highway at which there are stop signs, you must stop completely and proceed when you can do so without interfering with other traffic. Emergency vehicles, such as police cars, fire engines, and ambulances, have the right-of-way when they are displaying a red light in front or when the signal with a siren or bell. Immediately drive to the right and stop until the emergency vehicle has passed. Never follow such vehicles. When approaching a stationary emergency vehicle from the rear that is using flashing warning lights on a street or highway with 2 or more lanes in each direction, proceed with due caution and move to a lane that is not next to the stopped emergency vehicle. If it is not possible to change lanes, then the driver must reduce speed and proceed with due caution. You must yield to construction vehicles and workers that are actually engaged in work on the roadway. Just as with emergency vehicles, you must move into a traffic lane that is not next to the construction vehicles when you encounter one working on the road. The driver of a vehicle turning left must yield the right-of-way to vehicles approaching from the opposite direction. If both cars enter the intersection at the same time, the car going straight has the right-of-way. If you are turning, you have to wait for the person who is going straight to finish getting through the intersection. That is likely to be on your test with a diagram. Vehicles on a public street or highway have the right of way over vehicles entering from a private drive or side road. The driver of a vehicle within a business or residential district emerging from an alley, driveway, or building must stop immediately prior to driving onto a sidewalk or onto a sidewalk area extending across any alleyways or driveway. After stopping, the driver shall then yield the right of way. Cars controlled by a yield sign need stop only when necessary to avoid interfering with other traffic that has the right of way, including pedestrians. Do not enter an intersection, crosswalk, or railroad crossing unless there is sufficient space on the other side for your vehicle. Even though you may have a green light, you may not enter an intersection if there isn't room to get all the way across. You don't want to get stuck in an intersection and the light's red and you're still sitting out there in the middle. Everyone's going to be mad at you and they're going to honk at you. And if a police sees you doing it, you're getting a ticket. Parking. Parking is not allowed in the following places: within an intersection, within a pedestrian crosswalk at an intersection, within 15 feet of a fire hydrant. That's probably on the test. More than 12 inches from a curb. That might be on the test. In front of a driveway, on a bridge or other elevated structure, upon a highway, or within a tunnel. In no parking zones designated by official signs. Double or too deep along the curb or side of the street. On narrow streets or roads where parking would interfere with regular traffic. On a sidewalk. Within 30 feet approaching any traffic control signal, stop sign, or flashing beacon at the side of the roadway. Between a safety zone, an adjunct curve, or within 30 feet of points on a curb opposite ends of safety zone. Within 50 feet of the nearest railroad crossing. Within 20 feet of driveway entrance to a fire station, and on side of street opposite the entrance within 75 feet of entrance. Alongside or opposite any street excavation or obstruction when parking would obstruct traffic. In spaces identified as handicap parking.